Have you heard of Dracula? He single-handedly defeated thousands of Turkish soldiers. Once I calmed down, Dracula knew Turks wouldn't let him go. Next battle would be brutal. Safety was priority one. So, he dragged everyone up to the monastery on the mountain, where cannibals and enemies couldn't reach them. But on the way, Dracula's thirst for blood was off the charts. Talk about a no-win situation. He saw his uncle beside him and couldn't help but draw. It was hard to resist, but he had to hang on. As they trekked on, a mysterious man jumped out of nowhere, looking like he knew who Dracula really was. He boldly sliced his palm and offered his blood to Dracula, but Dracula accidentally sent it flying. Just 3 more days and he could go back to being normal. The thirst for blood was like a bad dream haunting him. Unfortunately, his shaking caught his wife's attention. When she pulled back the sheets, she saw his scarred back. His wife was heartbroken, realizing it was a tough choice, and she had to help him hide his true nature. The journey was smooth, and they reached the monastery. The Sultan learned about his soldiers. Dracula had wiped them out single-handedly, and he was fuming, leading 100,000 troops into battle. Dracula sensed something was up, so he decided to send the Sultan a special gift that night. The next morning, the Sultan woke to find the ground littered with Turkish soldiers. That's when he remembered Dracula was known as the Impaler. But his patrol saw nothing unusual last night. The Sultan thought Dracula might be mutating, so he ordered his troops to blindfold themselves. They couldn't see, but sheer numbers gave hope. 100,000 Turkish soldiers marched on the monastery. But before the Sultan could act, Dracula almost got toasted because he forgot he was a vampire now. The moment he saw the sunlight, he had to pull a 180, which a nearby priest caught on camera. Dracula had to cover up like a champ and turn to leave, but the priest had a hawk's eye. The priest followed him, cornering him. Seeing Dracula flinch from the sunlight, he realized he was a vampire now. He whipped out his silver sword, ready to slay, but Dracula tried to explain he just wanted to protect the people. But the priest was having none of it. He sliced the curtains, and the sunlight hit Dracula, making his skin sizzle. The crowd freaked out and scattered, realizing Dracula had become a vampire. His soldiers closed in with torches, forgetting Dracula was actually their hero. Just then, his wife showed up, but no one listened to her as the townsfolk hurried to light the torches. Hearing Dracula scream, his wife shouted helplessly from outside, but lucky for him, he was undead. Realizing he had saved a bunch of heartless people, his anger unleashed dark powers like never before. Dark clouds suddenly blocked the sun. Dracula emerged, knowing his sacrifice saved people. He questioned why they would treat him this way, and those who cursed him earlier were now silent as mice. Rena rushed to calm Dracula down. Seeing him upset, he had no choice but to cool off. Even if the townsfolk were ungrateful, at least his beloved would believe in him. With thoughts of Torquay and the seal to deal with, Dracula decided to let it go and ordered everyone to be ready. He went to the church to offer his sincere prayers, hoping to be fortunate enough to survive the last day peacefully. At that very moment, his son approached him, and upon hearing his son's words of understanding and support for his father, Dracula was instantly filled with boundless strength. Using his keen vision, Dracula saw Torquay's army slowly closing in. Though vampires are powerful, sheer numbers made things complicated. He wasn't sure he could control this. He told Marina to immediately grab their son and flee the place if they ended up losing. But Marina insisted on fighting alongside him until the end. The next morning, the Sultan led his 100,000 men to the monastery, amazed by the scene. Dracula began plotting his strategy when a bat flew overhead, sparking an idea. She followed the bat up to the highest tower, discovering a massive swarm of bats. She raised her hand to command them, feeling the dark power calling her. The bats extended their wings and let out squeaks, yet all of this was merely the commencement. More groups of bats in the mountains waited patiently for her command. They began to form clusters heading for the monastery, just as the Sultan's ambush squad spotted them. Seeing the swarm of bats circling the monastery, Dracula had concocted a plan. With a wave of her hand, the bats zipped toward the Turkish forces, trapping them in a frenzy. The soldiers, who had their eyes blindfolded, were completely unaware of what was transpiring until they were suddenly ambushed. At this moment, Dracula transformed as if into an exceptional maestro. With the fist clenched, the bats transformed into a giant fist and smashed down. This terrifying blow crushed half the army with ease. Amid the chaos, Dracula locked onto the Sultan's position. Remembering the humiliation and his lost happiness, Dracula's rage ignited, threatening to light up the sky. He instantly transformed, diving from the tower's bats, catching the army off guard. No one was following orders, a perfect time to take the Sultan out. The archers inside the monastery started firing arrows into the sky. As the arrows fell, Dracula's bat swarm charged into the chaotic Turkish troops. They tore through everything, flipping the Sultan to the ground. But when Dracula reached out to end it all, he realized the armored figure wasn't the Sultan at all, and sensing disaster, he instantly called for a substitute. That's the story for today. If you liked it, please subscribe down below and hit that bell.